Thank you for listening to another edition of Interview with DJ Nocturna. My guest, we're going around the world. We're going to the land down under with Melbourne's artists and um, incredible music, new wave, influenced by new wave synth pop artist Peter Endall of Suburban Spell. Thank you for joining
Hi,
me.
nice to be here.
Yes, thank you. I think it worked out so perfectly how you have that background there, which totally matches your your whole music thing going on.
Yeah, well, yeah, the aesthetic is kind of something that I really kind of enjoy as well. So it's certainly I like photography, etc., like that, and that kind of brutalist kind of aesthetic. So yeah, it's a good pickup. You're right. The building behind me does.
Yeah, it's perfect. I figured that building is around you somewhere. Now, so you're all the way from Melbourne. You're my second uh artist that I've interviewed from Melbourne. I of course the first one is Anastasia, Cosmic Astrologer. I don't know if you heard of her, but she lives in Melbourne and she's an astrologer. If you're interested in astrology,
Right.
Anastasia, Cosmic Astrologer in YouTube. Yeah, so Melbourne is an amazing place, and I think I have two more interviews with artists from Melbourne.
Yeah, that's surprising. It's always had a really good music scene in Melbourne, like since the 70s and 80s, really. And I'm going back a long way now, but certainly the music scene and the art scene in Melbourne has always been really, really strong. And it's a really cultural city as well. So having a really strong sort of music presence just goes hand in hand with that as well. So there's lots of really good bands and lots of really good acts to see down here. So.
Yeah, AC/DC is from Australia, and then there's of course Air Supply, In Excess,
Yeah,
and of course one of my favorite guys right here.
Oh yeah.
My Aussie, both of them.
Yeah. I saw the birthday party live in about 1979 or something like that, down at Festival Hall in about 300 or 400 people. So that was and wow. I think Nick had only just got out of school at that time, so it was a great gig.
Oh yeah. So have you ever heard about? I think he's from Warwick Nabil. I don't know.
Warwick Nabil. Yep.
Yeah.
I do know that. It's a little country town out in the middle of what's called the Mallee. It's in central Victoria, and it's just nothing. It's just a one-horse town, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So
oh yeah,
he's certainly gone on to grand things.
Oh yeah. Have you been? Is that far from where you are?
Yeah, I have been there. It's about 4 or 5 hours drive, but there's a really good art trail out there as well. So it's kind of a good kind of weekend trip to go up that way. So yeah, I've seen his hometown.
So you're in Victoria, in Melbourne, right? You're right in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, your music is very interesting. I love the pictures. You have your album came out in Valentine's Day. It's called Split Level. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. I know it's something to do with apartments, and it has a little bit of like we were talking about I guess you're influenced by brutalism.
Somewhat, yes. Yeah. But the term split levels, I suppose, it's a bit of a mid-century architecture term, and it not necessarily, but that's one of the key elements of that mid-century architecture is the use of split levels within homes. And I suppose the name kind of Suburban Spell and my interest in kind of uncovering Suburbia, and I suppose the multiple levels that Suburbia brings kind of resonated with the term split levels as well. So it kind of just worked. As soon as I was just working through some of the potential album names, I just stumbled across the term split levels, and it just worked really well. So hence that's how it ended up. But yeah, it's not really apartments. It's more kind of ranch style kind of homes where there's sort of set down levels and so on that occur within within the house, and I thought it was nicely representative of the multiple facets of the suburban life that we sort of that we all experience.
Yeah. So Suburban Spell, I know that you've taken that name from influenced by the Pet Shop Boys song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I love too. I love that time, the 80s, of course, all those great bands that came out of the 80s. And I was just listening to one of your songs. I know you were in the band called Schizo Scherzo, I hope I don't mispronounce that.
It's pronounced Schizo Scherzo.
Tell us about that. What is the meaning, or well, how did you come up with that name?
Schizo Scherzo. Oh, well, schizo is kind of a slang term for being a bit kind of schizophrenic and a bit off the wall, I suppose. And scherzo in classical terms means a lively rhythmic passage of music. So we kind of thought that was rather appropriate. And if you do a YouTube search for Schizo Scherzo, you can find one of the singles that were released back in the 80s.
I know, I like that song, Back to Black.
Yeah.
Back to Back.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I was listening to it.
Fun.
Yeah, I like it. I wanted to see if I can get a copy of that song. I would love to play it on one of my 80s night that I do here called Astrowatch. Because that song came out in 1985, so it would be appropriate. It's very danceable.
Yeah. No, it was good fun. Through the 80s in Melbourne, etc., was a really good time to be around as far as playing in bands. There was so much happening, and at the time, my kind of claim to fame back in those days is that we did a support for the Eurythmics, which was really good fun.
Wow!
And we also did a support for Fergal Sharkey from.
Oh, really? Wow!
Yeah. So so that was kind of fun. So yeah, it was but certainly the 80s in Melbourne, it was a good time to be around.
Yeah, well, what was it like, the post-punk scene and the new wave scene back in Melbourne in those days? I mean, for us, where I live and where, a lot of people, we hear about England's post-punk scene, Manchester, Liverpool, all those guys over there that came out of those places, but I hardly hear anything about Melbourne.
Well, look, it was a pretty thriving scene. There was a few bands that kind of made it internationally, I suppose, out of here. I mean, the bands that kind of come to mind, I suppose, out of that kind of period is obviously In Excess, Ice House. They were sort of around about that sort of period as well. Midnight Oil, a bit sort of like 76, 77, but also in the early 80s as well. And
I love that band too. Real Life, I think it's from Australia too, right?
Sorry?
Real Life? Are they from Australia?
Actually, they're reforming, I think, and I think they're playing somewhere at one of the local pubs around here. So that'd be great to see.
Right now?
And the Go-Betweens, do you know that band? So I think they're from either Perth or from Brisbane, but they were just a part of that Australian music scene. Yeah, no, it was really strong, really strong.
Yeah, and of course, Roland Howard, which is one of my favorite guys, from the Nick Cave family, and the Dirty Three, Anita Lane, who recently passed away. They're all from that. They're all, and Lisa Gerrard. There's just so many. Australia is a beautiful place. The people and the music, and I don't know, just seems like it's a great place. And I wanted to talk to somebody who was around, who experienced that period, during the post-punk and new wave scene.
Yeah. Look, it's a good scene, but in some ways it's quite we're a very small country as such. We've only got 25 million people here overall, so it's really hard for, especially if you're in any kind of subculture scene, to actually make some sort of impact. Really, you do have to go overseas to actually have a serious impact, but that doesn't diminish the quality of the artists and the people that are here, because there is some really high talent, high quality people here. I was out just on the weekend, just at one of the local clubs, and there was a band I'd never heard of before called Dark Water, and they were just the best thing I've heard for such a long time. They were fantastic. So they've got a little thing on Bandcamp as well with a couple of albums, and I think they're about to release a third album as well. But certainly one of the best bands I've seen for a long time. It was wrapped. It was such a good night. It was great fun.
So I know you play keyboard, and how did you get into music?
Well, I can blame my parents, I suppose. They started me off on the organ when I played, Popcorn and those really daggy songs on the organ in the 70s and so on. But then in high school, I met a mate of mine who was into electronic music, and we both sort of had a bit of a passion for that electronic music, and we used to go shopping in sort of record stores back in the day. And I think one of the first albums I ever bought that was kind of that electronic music was a live Klaus Schulze album. And then from that, I kind of got into Jean-Michel Jarre with Equinox and Oxygene and all of those really good albums. And then so I used to play with him. We used to have little concerts in his lounge room, and we used to invite some of our mates around from high school to watch us, which was great fun. And I suppose that was kind of the start of it. And then after that, I sort of played in a few kind of more kind of rock bands, I suppose, just from that would have been in the late 70s, I suppose, 1980. And then out of that band, Schizo Scherzo kind of formed from some of those early kind of rock bands. And then we were kind of doing this kind of more new wave kind of style after that. And I've just been into music my whole life. It absolutely identifies who I am and what I want to be in it. It's just such a release for me to be able to write music. So it's just a part of me, and it always has been.
So your first album was a self-titled album called Suburban Spell, and then that came out in 2021.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's right. At the start of 2021. Yeah.
So a lot of these were. Did you write these songs during the pandemic?
Yeah, well, I suppose prior to that, there's just a little bit of a backstory. I was also playing. I play a lot of piano as well as other things, and also play a bit of guitar and the double bass amongst other things. And I was playing in a bluegrass country band for a while, just playing the double bass, and then I kind of got a bit sick of all of that kind of music again, and I really want to get back to my roots ultimately, which was that kind of 80s kind of synth kind of stuff. And then so I just started to actually, the guy that I was playing keyboards with in high school, I went back and had another chat with him, and he sort of put me onto various platforms that allow you to record all your own music. And I've always had a head full of ideas that I just wanted to get down, and all of a sudden I just found a really good avenue for me to get my musical ideas out. And so in answer to your question, yes, I wrote all of the songs. And I think the first album, if I listen to it now, and this is probably not an unusual response, I listen to it now and I go, oh, it's a little bit kind of cringy, but I think as the more I write, the better I write as well. So I think as I'm still writing, I think my songs are kind of maturing and becoming stronger as well. So I think that album was pretty good for what it was. I'm certainly quite proud of it, but I think the work that I'm doing now, I think, is much more representative of sort of where I want to go.
Yeah, the first album. Do you feel the first album was? How do you think it differs from the second one? Was it you think it was more darker? The first one?
No, I don't actually. I think the first album for me was just more of a collection of vague ideas, not vague ideas, but a collection of separate ideas and separate sort of notions and quite kind of separate musical kind of styles. Whereas I think the second album is far more cohesive, and it's got more of a constant theme and a more and a better narrative throughout the whole album, from like a lyric point of view and from a musical point of view. And I just think it's I think the structure of it's a bit more interesting than the first one as well.
Yeah, I think my favorite track on the split levels is The Edge of the Cloud.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful how you did that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think so when I was writing all the tracks, I felt that the album needed a bookend, one at each end. And so I wrote Edge of the Cloud as kind of the opening piece. And then the very last song is meant to be reflective of that, but in a slightly different kind of style. And
behind the other
when I first started to write that, I was trying to envision the Australian night sky. And that sounds a bit kind of esoteric and out there, but I really wanted to somehow or other express that, because the night sky down here in Australia is just truly amazing. When you go out there in the middle of the outback and it's pitch black and you just got the stars, and it's absolutely stunning. So I just wanted to try to write something that at least went some way to try and sort of capturing that, the grand scale of things.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I also like Full of Fools and Clowns, and We All Pray, of course. And let me see what else. I like Breathe the Dust.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a great album. And yeah. And I was gonna ask you, I know your influence, you're influenced by the brutalist architecture. And I wanted to ask you, like, what is it about that you what is it about the architecture that you resonates?
Yeah. I kind of like things that are kind of ugly and beautiful at the same time. And I like the sort of I like things that are just aren't immediately beautiful, and I like things that maybe take a little bit of time to actually warm to, I suppose. So that's kind of one part of it. The other part of it is that I think brutalist architecture and coming up with those ideas takes real courage. I think and I admire that courage as well. And it's something I try to do with my music from a point of view that, and this is a constant challenge, believe me, is to try to strip back the core of what you're song and just try to present the essence of the song. And sometimes that takes a bit of courage to do that, to be able to strip a song back to its sort of its bare bones. And I suppose that's kind of what kind of resonates with the brutalist style of architecture, I suppose, and me, the constant challenge of trying to pull my songs back and to be able to get them into a core. I suppose that's kind of where that crossover lies.
So is that architecture prominent in Australia?
No, not really. You've got to search it out. It's around, but it's not in the everyday kind of CBD or anything like that. You've actually got to but I think there's a number of websites around that you can actually pick up all the brutalist style architecture. And it's certainly something I certainly keep an eye at, especially when I'm traveling to other capital cities around Australia, but also around the world as well. So I think it's fantastic.
Your Fools and Clowns, you have a photo there of the beach. Where's that at? Where's that beach at?
It's on the south coast of Victoria, so it's sort of southwest, I suppose, from where we are in Melbourne. It's called the Great Ocean Road, which is a long stretch of road. It runs for about 100 k's or something along the coast, and it just follows that sheer rugged coastline, and it's a very, very famous drive here in Melbourne. And I had gone down to a little kind of punk rock festival at a place called Port Fairy, which is about 3 hours west of Melbourne, and we're driving home along the Great Ocean Road, and I got out my trusty camera and just took some shots of some of the various places that we'd stopped around, with full understanding that I wanted to get some vision for Fools and Clowns, and I wanted introduce the starkness of that kind of scenery into some of the urban footage from the video as well. And I wasn't sure whether the quality would be up to the standard, but thankfully it's worked out quite well.
Yeah, you know, I also like the picture of your press photo. You're sitting like this, and you got a rotary phone, which is fun.
Yeah.
Which we don't find those anymore. Which I always I used to
No.
have one many when I was a little. And I'm not quite sure what that. Well, you have something on the side. I think I'm not sure what it is. It looks like food, maybe.
No, it's just. I think it's a part of one of the flowers, because I had there's a floral setting there with some Australian natives, and it was just one of the little branches.
Oh yeah. So what is that? What is that flower on the vase? What is
Look, you're going to test me on my knowledge of flowers here. I don't really know the name of them, but I do know that they're Australian, native flowers, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to sort of at least have some sort of subtle representation of basically where I live, and I suppose that was it.
Oh yeah, no, I like the black and white imagery. I mean, flowers, you know, if it wasn't black and white, then you would see the colors. But I like how you put that in contrast, you know, with everything you're doing. You know.
Yeah. I suppose that kind of simple theme, and obviously, you know, black and white is a theme I want to continue with throughout the rest of my musical career, because it certainly represents the kind of style of the music, I think, and I just think that's so much more interesting, I think, than working with color anyway.
Yeah, and of course, big shout out to UTM Music Group, Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle. Yeah, no, look, I think Michelle and UTM have been absolutely fantastic for me and my career. I think this is a dream come true for me, really. Like for the last few years, to be able to have my music heard all around the world is absolutely fantastic, and I'm so excited. And certainly, without Michelle, it certainly wouldn't have been possible. So no, he's been fantastic, and it's great to work with. And he really tailors his output to the kind of music which I do, and he knows the various markets around the world which you know like what I do. So that's been a really successful relationship.
Yeah, and I know you have your first album is the self-titled album, Suburban Spell, and then the second one is Split Level, right? And then so that one was released on Valentine's Day. Yep. So if anybody wanted to check out your music, I know you have it on Bandcamp.
Yep. It's on all the streaming platforms as well, I think. And yeah, it's out there. If you search for it, you'll find it.
Bandcamp, and of course, you know, I mean, if somebody wanted to purchase your music, they can go to Bandcamp. Just look for Suburban Spell. Yep. And you're also on Facebook and Instagram.
Correct. Yeah.
And of course, YouTube, right? Some of these videos. I know you have a video that came out.
Yeah, there's three videos on there. One for each of the singles, I suppose, of Split Levels. The first one is called Control, and that's got a lot of architecture photos in the video as well. Like a friend of mine, Chip, and I worked on the video for a while, and we really wanted to capture some of that kind of architecture, and Chip's done a fantastic job of putting that together, I think. And then the second single was We All Pray, of course, and that was mainly shot in Toyland Studios here in Melbourne, with Adam Kalitsis, who has been doing my engineering, I suppose, for some time now, but he also picks up the video side of things as well. So he runs Toyland Studios down here. So that's been another really successful working relationship as well. And then of course the last one was Fools and Clowns. So I'm thinking about whether I will do a fourth single off the album. I'm not certain yet. I think if I do, it might be the track towards the end of the album called Feel No More. And I've got a co-vocalist on that track, a friend of mine called Leo, who plays in a rockabilly band. He's got a beautiful voice, and
Mhm.
he sung all the choruses in that song. But it's quite a different song from the rest of the songs on the album. But I think it's quite strong in its own right. So I'm just deciding whether I'll release that as a fourth single and create another video, or I'm working on 2 new songs at the moment, which are working out quite well. So I don't know. I'm sort of spoiled for choice at the moment. So we'll see what happens.
Do you like working as a solo artist rather than in a band?
Yeah.
Probably when you play live, you'll have a band. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think playing live is a little while off, but I've got a mental concept of what playing live actually looks like. But look, at the moment, I'm really enjoying just playing solo and just being my own act. And so I suppose just being in control of everything like that is actually it's got its advantages. While I've got a head full of thoughts and what I want the songs to look like, it works out quite well. But the flip side is that you lose that collaboration side of things. So I'm certainly open to working with other artists, yeah. And if someone comes along that we've got the right musical combination, if that's the right word, or chemistry, then sure, I'd certainly be up for working with some other parties.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you will. There's so many wonderful artists all over the world, and even in Australia. Australia is open now, and I know you're having your winter season coming up. Right? Is it getting cold there?
Oh yeah, it's not too bad. It's about 10 degrees Celsius here, which I'm not sure what the equivalent is over there, but it's okay. It's quite mild, It's certainly not like a New York winter or anything like that. So.
Yeah. Well, you got many wonderful animals too. Animals you can't find anywhere, like with the koala bear and the possum. They're so cute.
Yeah. And kangaroos, of course, without trying to sound too much like a cliche, but they are just everywhere. Like if you go out for like half an hour out of CBD, it's not too far. You can find kangaroos around the local paddocks, etc. So yeah,
like running wild, like loose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would run away because I heard they're punchers and kickers. I'll be like running away from them.
Yeah. Oh, look, some of them can be, but I think the ones around here are pretty tame. So I think you'll be okay.
Okay. I'll remember that when I come to Australia. I gotta watch out.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me. And once again, you can find your music on Bandcamp and Suburban Spell. I got Peter Endall. Yeah, thank you for joining me.
No worries at all. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. It was lovely. Thank you.
Is there anything else coming up for you that we didn't mention?
No, not specifically. I'm just going to keep busy writing and sort of producing, but I'd expect to have some new material released within about I'll say sort of 5 or 6 months. I think probably I'll have something out there, if not sooner anyway.
So maybe like in 2023.
Hopefully before that. Before that. Yeah.
Okay, well that's soon. All right. Okay, well, thank you, and good luck with your music. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks very much.
I'm gonna just turn this off.